It's Thursday, April 14th, and this is the Geek News Central podcast, brought to you by GoDaddy.com, proud member of the Tech Podcasts Network. If it's tech, it's here. Great show lined up tonight. In case you may not have noticed, it is time to strap in.
All right, people, I need a go, no-go for the Geek News Central podcast. Digital archive recorders.
We're go fly.
Microphone.
We're go fly.
Video feed.
Go.
Web browser.
Go.
RSS data stream aggregator.
Go fly.
Interflux Toddism suppressor.
All right, I'm confused.
Host readiness check.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
The Geek News Central podcast is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to go. Cue Todd in
5,
Button, who's got the button?
4,
There is no cause for alarm.
3,
Everybody hold on to something.
2,
Just press the button.
1.
Showtime.
Hey, and showtime it is. Welcome to the show here. I'm Andy McCaskey, coming to you far to the east of Hawaii, where Geek News Central normally originates. I'm from SDR News and RVNN TV, and I'm kind of sitting in here for Todd. Got my script, got my checklist, got my pen, and we're absolutely ready to roll. Wanted to try and follow pretty much the same format that Todd has, so we're going to go right down the list of things that Todd normally does. First thing he does is he encourages you to go to the site at geeknewscentral.com. Now, why would he do that? Because all of the show notes, all of the archives, this new show, Gadget Professor, that's just started up, the deals and the links are all at Geek News Central. But I hope that as you do that, you continue to listen and hang out as we talk tech here on the program. Warm welcome to the Ohana. These are longtime members of the Geek News Central family. If you're new to the show, it is easy to subscribe, and it's really a great way to stay abreast of what's going on, what's happening in tech, what's happening with Todd, and what's happening with the Tech Podcast Network. Also, at geeknewscentral.com, you can subscribe to the GNC newsletter, and you can also send in your comments to geeknews@gmail.com. That's the end of page 1. Todd has a helpline or a comment hotline, 619-342-7365, 24 hours a day. You can call in to that hotline. Couple of other notes. If you're watching on Roku or Boxy, I want to say hello. And you know, as Todd mentioned last week, soon Geek News Central is going to be on Looky TV. That's going to be introduced soon in Hong Kong. Now, not streaming live today. Todd may choose to run this on Ustream or Justin TV a little bit later. Todd's in Las Vegas for the National Association of Broadcasters, the NAB meeting. And if you were following last week, his Insanometer was absolutely peaked because it's the end of the quarter. He had this show, he had another travel engagement, and so that's kind of why he asked for a little bit of help here to handle the show today. Todd's at NAB introducing a new product for video on demand called Q2, and we'll be talking about that in just a bit. One of the big things Todd does right about this time is to talk about sponsors, and the biggest sponsor, of course, is GoDaddy.com. Now, I have been a GoDaddy customer since 2005. Todd's been a little bit earlier than that, but you know that GoDaddy has supported and sponsored Geek News Central since that time. That's an incredibly long period of time and a very, very close relationship, and because of that, Todd is able to offer an entire range of discount codes. Now, those of you who were with us at CES know that there was a CES 25 code, and that's still good for your very first purchase at GoDaddy.com. But if you look on the screen, you will see a whole range: Geek 5, Todd 20, Todd, ComSale, ComSale 2, Geek, Central, Aloha, a whole range of codes for existing customers and new customers. So before you order from GoDaddy.com, whether it's for shared hosting, dedicated hosting, a dedicated box, virtual dedicated server, secure certificates, email, website tonight, any of those great products, make sure that you go to geeknewscentral.com and check on deals. Tens of thousands of listeners have saved tens of thousands of dollars by using GNC codes. Todd talked last week about news show Don Bain and the Gadget Professor. Now, I found out that Gadget Professor is now on iTunes. So all you have to do is go to iTunes and search for The Gadget Professor, and you'll see at least 2 episodes of Don's news show that have come up, and you'll have a chance to look at that. And if you move quickly, you'll be able to sign up for a prize that they're offering. This is a Dymo label printer. It's for either Mac or PC. What you need to do is you need to go to the Gadget Professor, listen to that show, and then sign up for the newsletter. That's going to be given away in the next episode, and that's going to be coming up very, very shortly. So that's something that you need to do. Another note, Todd is expanding Geek News Central to add in additional shows. He needs 3 more shows. And so if you are a content creator that would be interested in developing and publishing a show through Geek News Central, send a demo reel to Todd. Just send him an email and say, hey, I would like to be a part of the Geek News Central family as a content creator. Send along a little demo reel of what your show would look like, and I know that Todd is going to be able to give that a lot of consideration. Raw Voice is at NAB. Raw Voice, of course, Todd's company. They're introducing a brand new product called Q2, Q-U-E-T-O-O.com. Q2, now the website, if you go there now, it's still locked down because they're doing demos at NAB. But it will eventually be the place for premium content, whether it's pay-per-view, audio on demand, video on demand, or subscription-based services, whether ongoing payments or one-time payments. This is going to be offered on the Roku channel, private channels of the Roku box supported by Raw Voice. And so he's put tremendous amount of work into that particular product. Back to Geek News Central, geeknewscentral.com. Some other things that you'll find there, the Ohana store, for Ohanaware. Also, again, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and you can subscribe to the Geek News Central show. Now, to bring you up to date a little bit on SDR News and some of my activities, you've probably not heard much from me since the Consumer Electronics Show. We've had some CES videos posted at sdrnews.com, but SDR News has been kind of in suspended animation. And every couple of weeks, I'll get together with Todd and Rob Greenlee on the GNC morning show on Saturdays, and we'll kind of talk tech at that point. But really, my attention and effort have been directed at a pretty exciting big deal for my company, Review Communications. The focus has been on creating a new network called RVNN TV, RVs being recreational vehicles, and focusing on that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the technology component associated with some of those shows. It's still, expanding. We've got 12 shows that are in production at the moment, but I can't stay away from gadgets. I can't stay away from distribution through the Roku we're on Blueberry, and active participation. And it turns out that even there are almost 10 million people involved in RVs, but they want to know about their gadgets. They want to know about wireless and computers and all sorts of things. So that led us right into a show that talks about technology and people who are traveling. Show is called Gadgetplex, and it's hosted by Philip May. He's a full-time RVer at a site called technorv.com. The thing that's cool about this is he has over 1,000 product testers who are active RVers, and he will send out different items for evaluation, and they talk about that particular piece of technology. A lot of emphasis on wireless and cellular and computers, and from a mobile standpoint, a lot of the things that are great tech podcast content you'll find at Gadgetplex. It's already in iTunes and the Zune podcast directories. We're going to submit it to Tech Podcast and also to TPN TV. Over-the-top television, tremendous thing in the RV world, tremendous thing here, Tech Podcast and the Geek News Central. So we have a show called The Hookup, which is basically going through user-level instructions on how to hook up a Boxy, how to hook up a Kylo or a Roku. All the basic instructions on how to get podcast video up onto the flat screen. There's an in-depth photography show, The Tech of Photography, specializing in travel photography and composition and Photoshop techniques, just the thing that you need to process and share your vacation photographs. And we're going to have 2 shows on geocaching. One of them is going to be a weekly geocache tech show focused on the technology and equipment of geocaching. And then there's going to be a daily show that's going to feature Monday through Friday a particular geocache somewhere in the world. That one's called Geocache Radar. So look for those on Blueberry and also on Tech Podcast. That all said, let's talk tech. Let's pull up some sites and see what we can find here. Microsoft has just announced a software developer kit, the SDK for Windows for Connect. Now, the feature that they're actually promoting is something called robust skeletal tracking. But the thing that's particular interest here is that they are incorporating the infrared camera, the visible camera, 4 directional microphones, and opening this up so that developers can begin to emphasize how they can come up with apps that will take advantage of this motion detection device. And that's really going to be a major step forward for them. Other things at Engadget, T-Mobile. T-Mobile said that they were going to cancel the Even More Plus was the name of this plan. It was an unlimited data plan. And you know, it got canceled before it even got launched. Now, I'll tell you a bit of a personal story here. For, I guess, 3.5 years or so, I've had a Sprint EVDO card. But if you're familiar with this particular Sierra Wireless card, you know that mechanically there's problems with it. It's easy to get knocked and bent. So this unit had quit functioning. And I was just about to go and replace my service with Sprint with another carrier. Because when I went in, they said, well, yeah, we'll replace the card, but you're going to have to sign up for a new contract. I wasn't happy, but I called them directly. I didn't go to a local store. I called them directly and said, hey, you know, I've been a great customer for all these years, but I'm going to have to leave you because I just don't want to go. And I said, you know, I was reading the fine print on my contract, and I think I have an unlimited data plan. Can you confirm that? And sure enough, they were able to confirm that the plan, since it was so old, had no data cap. All the new contracts have data caps. So I said, well, but if I come into the store or if I buy a new card online, that resets it. I have to come under a new contract. And they said, yes, that's true. And you didn't hear it from me, but if you could go to eBay and pick up a new card for, say, $6 or $7, that is a change in equipment, not a change in contract. So, bottom line, if you have a contract with an existing wireless carrier and you're really excited about getting to a newer, higher speed connection, think about that and look and make sure that the contract you're walking away from isn't one that you'd want to hang on to. Scobalizer. Robert Scoble says that it is the most important new protocol since RSS. He's talking about AirPlay. Now, AirPlay is the very cool feature. That's how you get content from your iOS device, your iPad, your iPhone, and transparently move that up to the big screen. He thinks that it is going to be, even though it right now is a feature that is, of course, locked up in the Apple ecosystem, even though it's tied up in that way, he thinks once this hits Android devices, the whole idea of over-the-top television, of being able to look at video content that you want on your device and then throw it up on the screen. We saw some of this at CES as well. Is going to be absolutely a game changer. And he says it's going to be as much of a game changer as RSS was, almost 10 years ago. Mashable talks about another Facebook lawsuit. This is Paul Seglia, I guess, Ceglia. He kind of crawled out into the limelight, claiming that he owns 84% of Facebook, which would be certainly a nice chunk of change. The animators in Taiwan had a lot of fun with that, and I'll go ahead and play a little bit about this. I don't know why they have the pirate theme going here, but it's kind of an attack that's on the good ship Facebook. And it's, of course, all in Chinese, so that might be a part of the problem. Fortunately, they have some English subtitles back and forth, but we'll go through. It's an entertaining watch, and this must be a very poor person who sees dollar signs in his eyes, and he goes out and finds a lawyer, and there's all sorts of stuff that goes on. And then there's the shower of dollars, which doesn't occur. So lots of fun in the continuing opera that is in fact the story of Facebook. Let's look over at Mashable. Mashable talks about that Automatic, which is the company behind WordPress.com, said that hackers have breached their security and put a lot of information that was on WordPress.com on at risk, out where people can get at it. And it's the sort of thing that when there's a security breach, they have to assume that that source code was exposed and copied, and so something to think about with the material that you might have posted there. Dave DeFore of RVNN TV sent a couple of links. Dave is the lone Windows Ranger here at RVNN TV, and so there's a lot of productivity tools we have on the Mac side of things that he goes out and finds on the PC side. And so we've got in the show notes, we're going to have a couple of links for you. One of the tools that he found is something called Texture for Windows, which is kind of a macro that allows you to assign a random shortcode or shortcut that then might expand up to be, a half page of HTML links or code. Something that when you're trying to put something into a web page, instead of cutting and pasting, you can call that macro. That's something that's highly recommended. Another thing at Lifehacker was actually a summary of 10 micro apps for Windows and for Mac OS X. These are things that let you know what's happened when a Google Doc has been revised and maybe you weren't logged on and you didn't happen to see that. There are Gmail minders, there are clippers. In the Apple side of things, there are micro apps for making sure that the virtual machines or screen sharing that you're going, if you're in an environment where you log on to different machines from one to another, where you can very quickly grab just one machine and then another without having to type in the IP address and the VNC and so forth. Some very handy productivity tips for you as well. Don't forget, if you're looking for just basic productivity and extension from a Chrome standpoint, good old Feedly. It is an RSS reader that presents your RSS feeds in a kind of an easy to read magazine format, if that's the way that you like to absorb information, or something a little bit different from an email style RSS reader. Another tool that Dave found is an application called Workflowy. Now, Cliff Ravenscraft mentioned this on his show. Workflowy is an outliner that lives in the cloud. And if you're like me, when you have creative writing to do, there's nothing like the Microsoft Word outline mode to be able to flesh out ideas and reorder them, move them back and forth, kind of hide the detail and focus on one thing over another. And of course, this being cloud-based, you can access it whenever you need to. That's called workflowy, the way to organize your brain. Here's another indication of the complexity that's coming out of this SDK. Microsoft added support for Netflix to connect. So this enables you to use body motion to browse, and anything that you can accomplish in the Netflix interface, in the Netflix UI, you can use Connect Motion to perform that. Again, Connect is really changing the way that people interact with their computers and with their systems. A lot of security news, of course. It's almost boring in its repetition, but always bears repeating because there are vulnerabilities. This particular one, there was a flash vulnerability. It was a 0-day effect that as soon as you downloaded a particular Word document, in this case, that was infected, then your machine was exposed. Adobe is going to be patching that on Friday, both for Windows and for Macs. I love this item here. What is killing your Wi-Fi? Now, if you live in a house that was built 35 or 40 years ago and happens to have aluminum siding, you know what it's like to live in a Faraday cage. It just drives you nuts as far as trying to get, particularly in the spring or summertime, when you're outside the house on the back porch, patio, or what have you, being able to get good Wi-Fi coverage. Well, the solution is not necessarily to move to a new house, because if you look carefully here, the whole house is being turned into it because they're putting the foam insulation boards faced with aluminum foil, which of course turns your house, which may have a veneer of brick or wood or plastic siding, which you think would be very transparent to RF. Turns out that's not the case at all. So if you're house hunting, you might want to inquire about what your quality of life is going to be in that situation. Wall Street Journal talks about mankind slowing down. They talk about over the last 200 years ago, if you wanted to get from one place to another, if you were moving at a really good clip, you might be able to go 6 miles an hour. By the end, 100 years later, by the end of the 19th century, you could go 60 miles an hour. By the middle of the 20th century, you could go 600 miles an hour. But then as you started to go, even the highest performance aircraft with several times the speed of sound, nowhere near 6,000 miles an hour, which should be happening. You know, 1 century, you just keep adding zeros. But that's not happening. And an interesting article there in the Wall Street Journal. If you are a hacker, and if you are alleged to be a member of Anonymous, you may not want to go on television, on national television, and brag about what a good hacker you are. It turned out that this was in France. He participated in a television program called Further Investigation, which sounds like a crime report type of thing. And basically he was just saying, well, yeah, I'm really good. I've stolen credit cards, I've done bank accounts, and I've, not only for me, but I've done it for other people. And that's just not the kind of thing that you say on television. So, note to self, don't do that. Macworld talks about the fact that Apple has released Safari and Snow Leopard and Snow Leopard server updates. Kind of a dirty little secret, Macs need to be patched just like Windows machines. And so when you have that software update come down, make sure you take advantage of that. Near Field Communications, NFC. Gigom says that 1 in 5 smartphones will have NFC by 2014. Now, we have seen this RF technology, RF-based technology at CES for several years. And it's always been one of these kind of curiosities that, this looks like it would be quite interesting. What it does, it would enable you to go by, and instead of swiping a credit card or having to pull a card out of your wallet, you would come by in the checkout line and you would just wave your phone in front of that near field communications, in front of that NFC enabled terminal, and you have paid and you are on your way. So technology to watch, and yeah, they say that's 20% of the phones in just about 3 years. Some ideas are good ideas, some ideas not so much. We're talking about the paywall that New York Times has put up. Now, if you follow the Morning Tech Show, last time I was on talking with Rob Greenlee and with Todd, I think I gave it 120 days. I might revise that to 180 days. But it's already working. Their traffic has dropped by about 15%, except for one little spike that happened April 9th. I'm not quite sure. Oh, people were looking about information on the government shutdown, which is subject of another program, probably not here at Geek News Central. Let's move over here to Mashable and look about what's going on with Foursquare. There is a proclamation. The New York mayor has proclaimed April 16th to be Foursquare Day, which is coming up here very, very shortly. Amazing to recall that Foursquare is closing in on 8.5 million users, and they were talking about 1 million users 1 year ago. And that's just an example of how hot the location-based services are and will be. If you've got a lot of money, you may want to check out a situation where you can rent an entire village. Let's say you had a corporate event or you wanted to have a class reunion or something like that. This company called Airbnb not only will rent a village to you. In fact, they have a special weekend bundle on an entire country. You could rent the country of Liechtenstein for $70,000 per night. If you want a village in German wine country, $50,000 a night, or Switzerland, a little pricier at $60,000 a night. And I think, yeah, what they do is they actually, you can't evict the people that live there. That's the one limitation. But you can go in and rename the streets, and they're an event and marketing company, and a pretty slick way of coming up with a novel idea. Just in case you wanted to rent a country. Other signs of change. Do you know that Facebook is actually the most popular sign-in choice, even more popular than Google? And that has just happened in the first quarter of this year. There are actually around 18 or 20. This particular study looked at various third-party sign-ins. Facebook, Google, Twitter, and so forth. Facebook, hands down, has come out number one. We've been having a lot of fun with the Kinect. There was an article at TechCrunch that Microsoft has demoed a Kinect-driven armchair. Now, this is where you're in the lazy boy and it's too much trouble to lean forward and then pull the handle for the leg rest to go down. You can just kind of wave a finger and it reclines whenever you want to, or if you want to change the view, or all sorts of things. So that's going to be a lot of fun to see the creativity the developers put into how that Kinect is going to be used. No doubt, according to Ars Technica, that tablets are chipping away at the hours that people spend on their PCs. And on the computer. Now, a lot of this is a function of people who are multitasking, who are watching TV and on their tablet at the same time. But 77% of the respondents in this particular survey, this is about 1,400 users, 77% said that their desktop or laptop usage had actually decreased after they got a tablet. Twitter. Supposedly, Business Insider says Twitter turned down a $10 billion offer from Google. You know, I'm not sure whether it's in the history of Dig, in tech history in general. You never quite know what these company founders are thinking about. But there's a certain point in time where you want to take the money and run. That apparently didn't happen. Twitter's board turned down a $2 billion offer from Facebook and a $10 billion from Google. Now, this is kind of in the high rumor clearance. Twitter's user base is actually much smaller than the number of registered users. But the board really should be thinking about the next time somebody comes to call with that kind of money that you might want to take the money and run. Windows Phone 7 is adding multitasking. It's adding a much deeper integration with the OS, and it's offering sensor access to the dev platform. New app concepts. We're just in a developer conference that we're showing examples of Kick Messenger, Skype, Spotify, Layar, and Amazon Shopping. So Windows 7 Phone, really want to keep an eye on that. First of all, because of the alliance with Nokia. Secondly, because it's a controlled environment as opposed to the wild and woolly Android West. And, you know, we've talked about that on the Morning Tech Show, and we'll continue to revisit that topic from time to time. A couple things from Boing Boing here. iGeiger, a Geiger counter with an iPhone interface. There are a couple of radiation sorts of things that are starting to appear in various geekly websites. But thought this was particularly interesting. If you're planning a trip to certain countries, you may want to consider hacking up the iGeiger and having that maybe even in your carry-on luggage. Everybody is looking for the green angle. And so the headline says, pot smokers may lack energy, but pot growers use lots of it. It turned out that people who are growing indoors, according to a Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory study, use about 1% of the U.S. electrical supply, creating 17 million metric tons of carbon dioxide each year. That's not including exhaling. They happen to note that when medical pot was legal in California, Humboldt County electrical usage jumped by 50% compared with other parts of the state. And then finally, I've got to say that Geek News Central, I've got something that's really geeky. If you use regular expressions, regex, there is a graphical application called Text-to-RE that will automatically generate regular expressions for you. And it is free, and it is in the show notes. So if that isn't geeky enough to you, I'm sorry. I don't have any of the emails. All the emails, questions, and comments went to Todd in his email. I just want to say thanks for being here. I'm Andy McCaskey from SDR News and RVNN TV. Todd will be back the next episode of Geek News Central. All I can say is that I am a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Thanks for watching.